starts the game.
Go ahead.
When you say it starts the game with 2 free throws, that precludes the jump ball, and alternating possession begins with the moment after the free throws completed.
No, you won't. You would not set. Well, if you start the game with 2 free throws, and that team that's shooting getting the ball, then the team that had the technical foul assessed, that's the team that's going to get the AP arrow. Did you follow that?
Yes, sir. No jump ball.
No jump ball. No jump ball. Shoot the free throws, give that team the ball, and the other team gets the arrow. But, just try to avoid this at all possible if you can. The other issue with the scorebook is after the 10-minute mark. So we have 2 different types of technical fouls that can happen here. We can have a technical foul before the 10-minute mark for not having the roster turned in by that time. Then we can also have a technical foul for changes that are made to the scorebook, whether it be adding players or changing numbers. If I read here, player A12 is added 8 minutes before the toss. What's the penalty? It's a technical foul. What type of technical foul? Administrative. Again, not charged to the head coach. If they come up at the 3-minute mark and say, uh-oh, I got another player that I forgot to add, then they add that second player at no penalty. Or if they come up and they need to change a number after that initial addition to the scorebook, there's no penalty. So when we reach the 10-minute mark and then they make a change in the book, they're only charged with 1 technical foul, no matter how many changes they make the rest of the game. They can add as many players, they can change as many numbers as they want to. Any questions on that aspect of it? All I can see is my screen, so I can't see the chat or anything. So Earl, if you'll let me know if there's a question in the chat. Okay. The next thing you sometimes have in pregame is our players dunking or team personnel dunking. They're not players yet till the game starts, but if a player dunks at the 7-minute mark during warmups, that's a technical foul on that player. That's also an indirect technical foul charged to the head coach. Why? Because all team personnel are considered bench personnel during warmups prior to the game, at halftime, between quarters. So just like if a player or a substitute that's sitting on the bench pops off to you, says something about you or your crewmate, it's a technical foul on that person. It's also a technical foul indirectly on the head coach. This is the same thing, dunking warmups. And I've read things on the internet where three players would dunk in pregame warmups just so their coach would get ejected from the game. So hopefully we won't ever see anything like that. But player dunks in warmups, it's a technical foul. Assess it to the player, indirectly to the head coach, and the coach loses his coaching box for the rest of the game or for all the game. If you see kids getting close, going up and getting a little too close to the rim, just step in there and say, hey guys, let me remind you, no dunking during warmups. Okay, any questions on that aspect of the pregame situation?
Yeah, Tony, this is Julio. I got a question just really quick because I've heard 2 different things. If a player dunks on in the warm-ups, can you just say I'm not gonna blow a whistle. I'm just gonna assess the technical foul free throws before we start the game, and then we just do like an 8, and then we establish AP arrow that from that point. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I wouldn't blow a whistle, but you do want to address it as quickly as possible, because if it happens again, in North Carolina, the coach is going to be disqualified. So if one player does it, then the next player is likely to be of the mindset, well, I can do that too. Let me show you. So if you see it happen, address it quickly. You don't have to blow a whistle or anything, but you want to address it quickly, pull that player aside, take him to the coach. Maybe just a little verbal warning to the other players. Hey guys, can't do that. And get that player and address it with the player and the coach.
Hey, Tony, Robert Edwards in the chat asked, will that count as 2 team fouls for the bonus count?
No, indirect technical fouls, they're part of the same technical foul. So if you call a technical foul and send directly charged to the head coach, it's only one team foul. Only one team foul.
Tony, what if multiple players dunk during those warm-ups?
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier. If you have multiple players do it, it's going to be a technical foul against each player, and they're going to be charged indirectly to the head coach. So if you have 2 players do it, then that head coach is going to be charged with 2 indirect technical fouls. And in North Carolina, he's not going to get a chance to coach that night.
What if you have one for each team?
Well, then you're going to have a technical foul on each of those 2 players, and each coach is going to have an indirect technical foul.
So are you going to jump ball, or how do you decide?
The book is not super clear on it. There may be a case play on it. It's not super clear in the rule book. The way the rule's written, they pretty much have to happen at the exact same time for you to not shoot the free throws. So with that in mind, then I would say we're going to have to shoot free throws at both ends, and then the team that last dunked, they're not going to get the ball. The other team going to get the ball, and then they're going to get the arrow. Like
Tony,
there may be a case play on that.
Tony, this is Steve James.
Okay, Steve.
Shouldn't this be discussed in the jamborees that we are having, that to remind the coaches and players that they are not supposed to dunk during warm-ups, half times, or at the end of the quarter? Shouldn't that be talked about at the scrimmages that we are now having?
Steve, that's Errol's call. I've been doing this. This is my 26th season, and the rule has always been the same. Coaches know they can't dunk. Players know they're not allowed to dunk. They're just going to try to get away with it.
Well, Steve, what should happen now is that if you out there noticing standing there, but see, a lot of time what we're doing is we're getting around in the huddle. We're out there watching them. And I would, hey, everybody need to go read the definition. Just go in and rule 2, read the definition of a dunk. Some of us don't know what it is. Not grabbing the rim, forcing the ball through the net. All right. And most of the time when you see it, all right, that's why again, Julio brought it up. Tony's expounded on it. That's when you tell when the player comes on that fit. Sometimes they got a shooting shirt on. Hold your jersey up. You go tell the coach right then. But you got to know the definition. But they know the rule. We're not going to have a clinic what they can't do, because then you're going to leave it open. What else can they do? You can't do this. You can't reach between the plane when they got the ball out of bounds. You can't do. We're not going to have a clinic. All right. But that's one thing. But again, what will happen, and a big problem is when we go from the girls game, the first game, and sometimes it may be a JV boys, to the boys, but we all go in, and then some out there having a dunk contest because nobody's in there watching. Okay, but again, we knows what team they are. I mean, I've been at games, and I'll go down. I may say something to them because again, I don't like to start the game off with a technical foul if I don't have to. All right, but we still gonna do our business. But again, but if you notice this, you got individuals out there when they started bouncing the ball and doing that, but they go up over the rim and just force it in. That constitutes a dunk. Now, when they grab it, they make it very easy to determine. But we're not gonna, hey, but again, when they first do it, they come by. We're not gonna blow whistle, but we're gonna ask that player to come over. We're gonna go tell the coach at that time. And normally what that coach does when you tell him that, what he's gonna do, and that's happened to me and several other coaches, that visiting coach is gonna stand there and watch the other team. He gonna tell you, they're gonna go there, hey, and he gonna tell you that was a dunk, that coach. We're not gonna get into that. Okay, but again, but when you see it, and see, we don't want to worry, we relaxed when we got the girls' game. But that's what you got to watch for. All right, because again, you got to tell them. I mean, some coaches will get very upset because they lost the coaching box privilege, and they'll change the guy in the starting lineup and determine over in Pinecrest. They did that because they've told their players before, like what Tony said, the players do that know that the coach, two technicals, indirect, direct, whatever combination, they're gonna be disqualified for that night. So when you see it or when it gets close, you see when a person comes up there and they try to, and you got to, hey, let.
Earl, you muted.
Yeah, I muted myself because I'm Tony finna go.
He's through talking.
That's why I muted myself.
Can I ask a question there real quick, Tony, or Earl? Earl, you just mentioned that when we're in the locker room, I called some ball out there in Texas, and we had a technique that as soon as the first official comes out of the locker room, we get jurisdiction, we hit a whistle so the players know, you know what, all that dunking we just doing, like you said, when we're in the locker room changing or whatever, they're having a dunk contest out there. So this rule is only applicable after we have jurisdiction on the court, i.e. after we come out, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm saying
Yes,
in between the games, but what happens, Keith, and what we did is that, a couple years ago, they were posted on social media and stuff like that. But again, what I did at that time, what we were, hey, two people go in, there's always one person on the court. It's like even we're gonna go back there and we're gonna change shirts or go in. We didn't all go in at the same time. I mean, and that's because it came and they put out on social media when they was having a dunk contest. But when we're not there, I mean, we don't go by, hey, what they were doing. The coach come out, hey, well, they did this. Again, if we don't see it, it didn't happen. But again, it's not a requirement that everybody, at least one person stays out on the court. But normally between the games, and guys, I'll tell you, and we still haven't come to some consensus about, hey, how they're going to play when they playing 4 games. I talked to one of the ADs today about that. So again, because what I do, and now those that came to the clinic, not just this time, but time before, we talked about what time the varsity games start when you're playing 4 games. So there's no, right now, they got a game starting at 4, then 5, then 6. Now, realistically, is that going to happen? Absolutely not. And I'm trying to get a better feel of, hey, because I wanted to do them one time in one of these scrimmages, and they're going to play a 6-minute JV game for both the girls and the boys. JV, and according how long it takes. And just see, because what I don't want to do, and everybody knows who's worked come up for that varsity girls game, and you go in there and they have not started the boys game at all, or they might be in the girls game. And that makes for a long night, especially when you travel, to South Columbus or Fairmont or somewhere, anywhere, really. And because they don't, that one conference is going to do, the Southeastern, the SAC-7 is going to do 6-minute quarters for both the JV girls and the JV boys, but it's going to be regulation. Now, and it's hard to do that if you're going to start at 4. That's probably on the game you're going to start on time.
All right, guys. So we've sort of covered this already. If you have a technical foul prior to the game beginning, how do we begin the game? We're going to start with 2 free throws for the other team. Just as any other technical foul, that team can bring in a substitute to shoot the free throws, and that does not violate the starter rule. They can bring in a substitute to shoot the first free throw and a different one to shoot the second free throw. It's not a problem. We do not have a jump ball. Team B gets the throw in at the division line opposite the table. And then Team A will get the alternating possession arrow. So, any other questions on pregame issues? Okay. Talk a little bit about game issues, and we'll start with throw-ins. And this is a case play pulled directly from the case book. A1 is out of bounds for a throw-in. B1 reaches through the boundary, but does not touch the ball or the thrower. Earlier in the game, Team B had received a team warning for delay. So somebody tell me what this particular play is with the action that occurred. Anybody?
Play a game, technical foul.
This is a second delay of game, and the second one results in a technical foul. Now, the previous warning that they received for delay, it could have been any of the 4 types of delay of games. It does not have to be the same type of delay of game. It could have been a situation where the team wasn't ready to line up when the administrating official was ready to administer a free throw, and that's a delay of game warning. Larry Morrissey mentioned last night, not having the floor ready at the end of a timeout. They're in a 30-second timeout. They spill water on the floor, and we can't get the game resumed like we should after the timeout because of the water having to be cleaned up. That's a delay of game warning. So if we had a delayed game warning for that, and now we have a delayed game for reaching through the boundary plane, 2 different types of delays, but still results in a technical foul. This particular one is not charged to the player. Now, had this player reached through the boundary line and touched the ball, then that is a delay game, and it's also a technical foul on that specific player.
Tony, on the first warning, that has to be reported to the scorekeeper so they can write it down in the book that Team A got a warning, so that if it happens again, you know it's going to be a technical. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Anytime you give a delay game warning to either team, they should write it in the book. That way you don't have an issue with a coach said that's our first one. No, sir, we have it written down that at 3:23 in the first quarter, you had a delay game warning. And that's usually not a problem. I've never had that situation where they wanted to dispute whether there was a previous delay of game or not. So this is the one I was just talking about. A1 is out of bounds for a throw in. B1 reaches through the boundary plane and knocks the ball out of A1's hands. Earlier in the game, Team B had received a delay of game warning. So in this situation, you have a technical foul that is actually charged to the player because he made contact with the ball. Now, had this been the first time this had happened, you would have a delay of game warning and you would have a technical foul because he touched the ball. So sort of kind of 2 different situations where one, we just are breaking the plane and getting a warning versus this situation where you're breaking the plane and touching the ball. So you have another warning, or it could be the first warning and then you have the technical foul. Any questions on either of those scenarios? Like I said, these are coming straight out of the case book. So so you can go to that section and read about those. This talks a little bit about the different types of delays. A1 has the ball out of bounds for a throw in. He completes the throw in, then purposely delays returning by taking 4 or 5 steps along the end line and comes in bounds, say on the other side of the lane or on the other side of a screen, and then gets a pass. I actually had this play 6 or 7 years ago when Brad was still the supervisor down at Midway, Wallace Rose Hill and Midway. Wallace Rose Hill had a throw in on the end line. The thrower threw the ball in, and then he ran the width of the court out of bounds and came in the far corner and received a pass. Can't do that. Has to come in bounds immediately. Gained an advantage by running the end line out of bounds and then coming in on the other side. So that's an immediate technical foul. Had a situation a few years ago at a scrimmage down in Scotland where a player threw the ball in and then he stood there. And he stood out of bounds for 4 or 5 seconds. Well, it's a scrimmage, so I didn't blow a technical foul, but that's exactly what that is. They can't delay their return in bounds. They have to get in bounds pretty quickly. So had a discussion with the coach who didn't believe what I was telling him. And again, that's been a while back, and I think Brad had to call him and get that straightened out. So is there any question on this type of play? Anybody else had this before? All right, good deal. Moving on.
Hey, Tony,
Yes, John?
isn't that one of the ones that now they've also made it a violation? I thought I
No.
saw that as a rule change somewhere.
No, this isn't a violation. A violation is when a player during play a player intentionally goes out of bounds and then comes back in. That's a
Gotcha.
violation. That's a violation. This is when a player is out of bounds for a throw in and doesn't return in bounds immediately. So kind of 2 different situations there.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yes, sir. So here's one we've talked about before. After a lengthy substitution situation with a lot of substitutes coming in for both teams, A5 goes to the bench and remains there, mistakenly believing he or she has been replaced. The ball is put in play even though Team A has only 4 players on the court. The coach of Team A realizes he only has 4 players as Team B scores. The coach yells for A5 to return, and he or she sprints directly onto the floor, catches a pass, and scores an uncontested goal. So this play is a technical foul and is charged to A5. A5's return to the court was deceitful and provided A5 an unfair positioning advantage on the court. That's why it's really important for us to count before we put the ball in play. If you're working a varsity game, there's 3 of us out there, and we need to make sure not only that there's not 6 out there, but there's not 4 out there. We need to have 5 before we put the ball in play. Anybody have a question on that one? That's a little odd too. I don't think I've ever had that play.
I did have a play, Tony, where a player did come onto the court, didn't score any baskets. The coach just realized that he only had 4, and so he sent the player on, and we didn't realize it either. So it was kind of ours. So we didn't assess anything because it didn't result in any disadvantage. They just realized it. Is that something that we would leave alone or address no matter what?
I would leave it alone. I've discussed a lot of these type plays with people online, with officials across the country, and the rule book really doesn't address that situation. It addresses the situation where there's an unfair advantage gained. But this coach has already placed himself at a disadvantage by only having 4 players on the floor. So as long as this player, who is supposed to be on the floor, as long as that player enters the floor and doesn't gain an advantage, I would leave it alone. Absolutely. Okay, next one. Same play as before. And this is the foul that Julio just talked about, or this is the play that Julio just talked about. Teammate coach realizes he only has 4 players out there. He yells for A5 to get up and get back on the floor. And the player runs out there and catches up to the play. A5's return to the court was not deceitful, nor did it provide A5 an unfair positioning advantage on the court. So definitely leave that play alone.
Is there a defense advantage call?
No, I would think the defense already pretty much has ourselves put at a disadvantage.
Like if someone running from the court to try to stop a dribbler going down for an uncontested layup or something?
I mean, I guess you could have something like that. You know, we could talk about all kinds of scenarios that we could come up with. It's just really, you just have to decide, was there an unfair advantage gained in the situation? So this is one that is not a warning. It's an immediate technical foul. The ruling official has reported the foul and has given directions to players along the free throw lane. The official is ready to put the ball in play or at A1's disposal, and A1 is on the sideline talking to the coach. In this situation, this is not a warning. It's a technical foul for delay charged to A1. Your warning situation would come in when you're ready to administer the free throw, and maybe they're huddled at the free throw line talking about what defense they're going to run after the free throw. That's a warning. This is not a warning. This is an immediate technical foul. But do your best to try to stay out of this situation to begin with. There's 3 of you out there. There may be one reporting the foul, one gathering the ball, but there's a third one that we should know who the shooter is. The calling official should have told us who the shooter is. So we need to get, it's like Errol said last night, we need to be getting the situation ready while that foul is being reported. So get that shooter to the line so we don't run into this. Any questions on those situations before we move on to fighting? Okay, game issues as a result of fighting. I've had 2 fights in 25, almost 26 years. Both of them involved girls. So don't think because you're on the basketball court in a girls' game that you can't have a fight, because I can promise you that one can break out, and it can be a flashpoint that sets it off. So, all right. So in this situation, it appears a fight might occur on the playing floor, and A6 and A7 come onto the floor. Can A6 and A7 leave the bench and come onto the floor? Anybody?
No, players can never leave the bench.
Players can never leave the bench and come on the floor. So in this situation where A6 and A7 both come on the floor, it doesn't matter whether there's a fight or not. If you read it up there, it appears a fight may occur. So a couple of players shove each other. Well, that's not a fight, but it's a situation where a fight might occur because one of them might take a swing at the other. So in that situation, you're there where a fight might occur, and the players cannot, or the substitutes cannot come on the floor. So A6 and A7 both come on the floor. They are both ejected from the basketball game. Team B is going to get awarded 2 free throws and the ball at the division line. What else does that mean? That means the head coach is going to be assessed 1 indirect technical foul. As long as those players come off the bench and they do not fight, they do not participate in a fight, then we're only going to assess 1 indirect technical foul to the head coach. It doesn't make any difference if 2 players come on, if 1 player comes on, if 10 substitutes come on. We're only going to assess 1 technical foul. In B there, we have a player from each team that comes on the floor. Let's see if the ruling is here. Yeah. Nope. Let me go back. But okay. So there we go. In the situation where A6 comes on the floor and B6 comes on the floor, we're not going to shoot any free throws because those are simultaneous technical fouls. But in that case, both of those players, A6 and B6, are still going to both be ejected from the game. They do not leave the bench area. They remain in the bench area on the bench as long as they aren't causing any problems. But they are ejected from the game and are no longer allowed to participate. And each of those head coaches are going to be assessed an indirect technical foul, and they're going to lose their coaching box privileges. Any questions on that with people, with substitutes leaving the bench when a foul might occur?
Yeah, my question is, you just said they don't have to leave the bench. They can go back to the bench after being ejected. They don't have to leave the gym.
That's correct.
Okay.
Never make a player leave the bench. We're talking 16, 17-year-old kids. We're talking minors. So they do not have to leave the bench. Now, if you eject a player and that player stays on the bench and then they continue to be a problem, then you bring the head coach in and you say, okay, this player is going to have to leave the bench, but somebody's going to have to go with him. But try to avoid that situation as if you possibly can. The only way we would ever have a player leave the bench area would be if they were escorted by like an assistant coach or a trainer or someone like that. But I would try to avoid that at all cost. That you force that player to leave the gymnasium and something happens to them, then that's not going to be a good situation. So yes, whether disqualified or ejected coaches, players do not have to leave the bench area. Okay, going to the next one. This time we actually have a fight. B1 and A1 begin fighting. Play stops. A6 comes into the bench area and enters the court to fight. B6 and B7 also enter the court at the same time and actually participate in the fight. So we're going to read this so I don't screw it up. Ruling: A1 and B1, the 2 that were initially in a fight, they're obviously both ejected. A6, B6, and B7. The substitutes, all 3 receive flagrant technical fouls and are ejected from the game. We have 2 technical fouls on team A. We have 3 technical fouls on team B. So we've got 1 more technical foul on team B than we do on A. So team A is going to shoot 2 free throws and they'll get the ball. Here's where you have to be careful. The coaches. Head coach of A will be assessed an indirect technical foul for A6 entering the court and fighting. The head coach of B will be assessed 2 indirect technical fouls for B6 and B7 entering the court and fighting. And he is ejected from the game in North Carolina. Does everybody understand the difference in that situation and the situation previously where the substitutes that came in did not fight? Because that's the important distinction here. Any questions on that? Outstanding. Moving on. Unsporting players or coaches. Okay. And we're talking after the final horn here. So there are individuals who don't realize that that our jurisdiction continues until the last member of the crew leaves the visual confines of the arena, of the gym, whatever you want to call it. So after the final horn, the officials are leaving the floor. An assistant coach from Team A confronts one of the officials, grabs his arm and curses him. At least one member of the crew had not left the visual confines of the court. Team A won by 3, Team B won by 5, Team A won by 1. There's three different scenarios there. So in the ruling, where Team A won by 3 and Team B won by 5, if we shoot the technical fouls, it's not going to make any difference in the final score of the game, right? Because Team A is up by 3 and Team B is up by 5 in scenarios A and B. So shooting the free throws is not going to change the outcome of the game. So we don't shoot the free throws, but the coaches, their assistant coach is still ejected from the game. In C, where Team A wins the game by 1 point, we're going to go back out there and we're going to get a Team B player and he's going to shoot 2 free throws. And if he ties the game, we're going to overtime. And if he hits both free throws, then Team B is winning the game. Can't say as I've ever had this either. But that's in there to protect us and to allow us to get on the floor without being confronted or somebody thinking that they can get a cheap shot in with us. Any questions on this situation or any type of similar scenario?
Tony, just to comment is that I've seen some partners, newer officials maybe, that may know or be familiar with people on the court after the game is over and then have some communication. And I would just want to discourage that because, you know, you want to do that after you leave the visual confines and then you're heading home to your car. Okay. But you know, that's another issue, but just want to discourage just staying on there after that final horn. Just go in, do your post game and let's not create a situation.
Yeah, there are a lot of fans out there who see us running on the floor and running off the floor and they think we're running scared. You see those guys, they know they did a terrible job. They weren't running off the floor. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If that's what you want to think, that's fine. But, yeah, we need to get off the floor as quickly as we possibly can when the game is over, especially if it may have been a little controversial or a little volatile, or we've had some situations during the game. And that's true of whatever game you work, whether you're working a basketball game, a soccer game, a football game, what have you. Get off the court, get off the field as quickly as possible. But this is put in to protect us, to keep us from being confronted by somebody who's not happy with the result of the game. Not a good situation. So for that part of it, that's the end of the PowerPoint. But I wanted to share something else with you guys. So let me pull this up. And okay, this was something that was put out a couple of months ago by the National Basketball Referees Association, which is the NBA's officials union. A friend of mine named Eric Lewis, who is an NBA official who's worked the finals I believe the past 4 years in a row, and this is some pretty good stuff, and it is from a professional perspective, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in here that we can take from it. So respect for the game rules, and this is what's allowed and what's not allowed, and this is how they handle this situation in the NBA, and I think we can do the same thing. So these are the type of things that shouldn't be permissible, and it's no different whether it's a pro game, a college game, or a high school game. Not permissible under respect for the game rules, resulting in a technical foul. Using profanity or shouting reaction after a call. That's a technical foul. And of course, at our level, use of profanity is also going to be an ejection. Use of profanity at the high school level, if you assess a technical foul for it, that's an ejection. It's not a disqualification. You fill out the little form in Dragonfly and tell them it's a disqualification and you have profanity in there, you're going to get a call the next day. If they're using profanity, why did you disqualify them? Should have been an ejection. We've probably all seen this, aggressive hand claps directed at an official. They'll walk up to you and start clapping their hands because they didn't like the call or something like that, or may even be just one or two claps, but that's not something that's appropriate, and it's not something that you have to tolerate, and it should be addressed accordingly with a technical foul. Running toward or aggressively and approaching an official. I would hope that none of us would tolerate that. Mark Dravos used to have a saying that what you permit, you promote, and that's exactly the type thing that he was talking about. Air punches, wave offs, aggressive or excessive arm motions. There was a gentleman who worked for us for several years. He was ROTC director at Douglasburg High School, and his name was, we called him the Colonel. His name was Tom King. And we called it the Tom King wave. I know Anthony probably remembers that. Aaron probably remembers that, guys that were around when he was working. He would wave you, they would wave him off, and it would be a technical foul. And it's just a show of disrespect. It's not something we should tolerate. It's not something we should permit, and certainly not something we should promote. So again, air punches, wave offs, or aggressive or excessive arm motions. Basically showing you up is what they're doing, and showing a total lack of respect. Extended or prolonged complaining about a call, particularly after being told to stop. I think a lot of us are pretty tolerant. We'll put up with a little bit of that, but when it's extended or prolonged, or after you've told them to knock it off, then it's time to knock it off. If you tell them to knock it off and they continue to do it, then you've really just wasted a warning, because they're going to continue, they're going to do it the next time, and the next time, and the next time. So if you warn somebody or you tell a player to stop, then they need to stop. And if they don't stop, then that's when you have to take action. Anybody ever seen a player run away, run down to the other end of the floor after a call or a non-call? Anybody ever seen LeBron James do that? I bet I've seen him do it more than one time. Don't let someone show you up like that. That is no business in student-based athletics. So,
Tony, before you move off from that slide.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at that, and because some guys, I mean, being around as far as doing different things at different times. Now, I'm looking at all those things right there, yeah, and pretty much saying not permissible. Some things, most of those fit in the automatic category. I know, Tony, you talked about the extended or prolonged complaining. That's probably the only one, but all those other things, guys, sometimes when people have a direct message to you, just you look at most of those things there, we got to have a direct response. That's the only one. I mean, so that's a good compilation of things right there. To most of those, I would say, Tony, automatics.
I would agree. Absolutely.
So again, I mean, so guys, just look at that now. I mean, we know using profanity or something like that's going to be an injection. Okay, who does it? Who is toward official, teammate, opponent? It doesn't matter.
It's 9 o'clock.
Okay, so just understand that. Okay, so just look at that thing. I was like, those should be consistent with our game at all levels. Whatever game you're doing, that should be what we call automatics. I mean, like I say, and coach can ask a question. Only thing I see that extended prolong. Hey, but you understand, you know what, they use, we're inside the gym, we're losing what their mannerism. Let's get there. Don't talk to them 25, 30 seconds. Then, okay, warning. Hey, you know what? Hey, that's enough. I heard you. Then you put in the warning. But the rest of those on there, Tony, I see those as being automatics.
And if you look at the adjectives,
right,
and look at some of the words, aggressive, aggressively approaching, excessive arm motions, extended or prolonged, frantically, shouting reaction. I mean, those are they're automatic. I mean, I agree with Earl 100%. Those are not calm, cool, and collected reactions. All of those things are over the top. And if you allow that type of thing to happen in your game, if you let one player do it, then guess what? Another player is going to do it. And then the player on the other team is going to do it. And they're going to take their cue from how you handle it. So I know I have my reputation for not putting up with stuff. And I'll be honest with you and tell you, I have a very low tolerance for bullshit. I'm just not going to put up with it. So if you put up with it, that's on you. But as Errol said, I think these things are automatic too.
Yeah. And again, guys, I want to try to get some consistency so we know that kind of behavior. Because again, we used to have crews and people know what they can get away with. I mean, the good officials, and that's a misnomer for some people because they think about, hey, what they like about some officials is that you lenient with the rules. And they will say, I like that because they can do what they want to do. But again, then get somebody who's basically just enforcing the rules, it makes it harder for everybody. But I say, just take a look at that and say, look, some of those as a association, I would like to kind of look, those type of actions, those kind of actions gonna get a direct response. And because someone will say, look, what about a warning? No, and that's you went past that. Those are gonna be automatic for our association. That's not what we want to do. But we got to get the game back in order. And I say that when I said, like, me being a spectator now and watching the game, watching you work, watching the game, no one wants to do it. Since I'm sitting there and they wonder why these other people, and there's not one time I've been in there in the last 3 or 4 years, when someone got removed from the game or something else, people around them was glad. They want to watch their kids play. They want to go to the basketball game. They're not there with all the coaches' action, throwing towels. Again, because sometimes they say they're automatics. I know what happened. They throw the jacket, take it off, throw a clipboard. Those are automatics. I mean, that shouldn't be, but I got the first, got to say, it doesn't matter. I mean, again, that's not good for the game. It's not a good watch. This is, education-based athletics, but we can't tolerate that.
Guys, if you're a college football official and you throw a holding flag in a game, after that game's over, you sit down and you document what type of holding call you made. Was it a grab and restrict? Was it a pull down to the ground? What type of holding call was it? You can apply that same philosophy to this. I called a technical foul tonight. Which of these 6 categories does it fit into? Okay, it fit into number 5. Prolonged complaining after a call. Okay, coach, I hear you. That's enough. Continues to do it. That's number 5. So if you call a technical foul, you should be able to put it in one of these 6 categories as far as the description of why you made that call. So any questions on this first slide here? All right, the next one is a good one because Errol just mentioned warnings, and this is situations where you can hold your whistle, you can not pull the trigger, and you can give a warning as opposed to assessing a technical foul. These items are not permissible under respect for the rules of the game, but resulting in a warning. Continuing to discuss a call after the official has responded. I had a player come up to me 3 years ago, I think, in a Southview game. Ref, can I ask you a question? Sure. Blah, blah, blah. What did he do? Blah, blah, blah. So I told him. So after I told him, he continued to comment. I said, whoa, partner. I said, you asked me if you could ask me a question. I said, sure. I answered your question. Now that's the end of the conversation. So that's enough. So it's fine. It's great. In fact, it's something you should do. You should be approachable. You should be able to answer questions, but don't let it turn into an argument when a player or a coach wants to ask you a question. If you go over and stand beside Dee Hardy, she's going to have something to say. She's going to ask you a question. Well, okay, answer her question and then move on. And if the coach doesn't want to move on, that's why we have that tool of being able to put a warning in the scorebook. Second one, holding arms in the air for a prolonged period of time. Anybody ever see that? Guys in the low post, I was straight up. Well, you may have been straight up, but that doesn't mean you can walk into him and make contact with him. So, hey, if there's a foul and we're going to shoot two and you're the administrative official and you've got the ball and that kid's standing there with his arms up, just step up to him. Hey, knock that off. Yeah, your arms are straight up, but you walked into him. So just give him a little warning. Knock that off. That's enough. And hopefully he'll conform and do what he's supposed to do. Next one, attempting to demonstrate actions such as goaltending or traveling. I don't know, is Connie Thomas on here? Connie and Todd Walker and I worked a game last year, Southview at Purnell Sweat. And I caught a foul. And as I was headed over to the table, this kid started signaling traveling to me. Followed me all the way to the table doing it. And he could very easily have got a technical foul. So, but I put a stop to it. So don't let players do that type of thing. Don't let them try to demonstrate the actions or give the signal that they thought you should have made or something like that. Just put a stop to that. Again, just tell them to knock it off. I see you, I heard you, knock it off, whatever. And then repeatedly asking questions, making comments, or gesturing. Some coaches are bad for that. They'll complain about a call. Okay, coach, I heard you. But when you go to the other end and you come back and they're still talking about the same call, no, now it's time. Okay, coach, heard enough. Don't need to hear anything else. I heard you. Let's move on. Errol, any thoughts on that slide? Is he there? I can only see my screen.
He's muted.
Oh,
I got, yeah, when they make a comment, a statement, just don't be quick. But what I don't want you to do is don't initiate the conversation. The coach go over there, you go over there and I see you the first one talking. You don't have to justify your call. All right. So again, you go there, but again, now the partner, if he's on a free throw, whatever case, once the ball put it back in play, don't turn your back and look. And we got a 28-foot line. Look, like I say, they're gonna call you over there. Just step. You got to the ball get ready to put, hey, you got to go do your job. All right. But again, I don't like, look, we don't touch coaches. Coaches don't touch us. They ask the question, hey, yes, no, I mean, hey, well, your partner is, and what he says, some of those coaches, we know who they are. Those have been around. And some man, hey, I'm gonna sign you to the games. You know, I know you don't want to deal with that. But again, not the excessive talking. You're there to work. You're there to do your job. Your job is there not to have a clinic, not to answer. If they got something specific to that, coach, what do you have for me? You get a question? Because they'll tell your partner, on that plate on that, coach, what do you have for me? Okay. And again, when you get ready in the game, hey, look, thanks, coach. Okay. We don't get in that. Well, ask him when he gets over here. Hey, I didn't see it that way. No, it does. Hey, a lot of times, what are you doing? They ask you about something. No, I'm watching this matchup. But again, the more you talk to them, the more you're gonna say something that they're gonna go back. Don't say, look, I'm gonna ask and I'll get back to you. All right. But again, just kind of keep that. We say silence can't be misquoted. But again, we're not going to ignore them. But again, all this stuff here, hey, work with me, coach. All right, coach, I'll talk to you. I mean, again, and when we talk about technical fouls, one thing about the talking, I'm going to skip to this right quick. That if the coach has lost the caution box privileges, don't talk to them while they're standing up. Okay? We don't tell them to sit down. You've lost your coaching block privileges. Coach, I'm asking you, hey, please have a seat. When you have a seat, they're going to ask the question. It's like the last word. Okay, he gave me a technical, she gave me a technical foul, and he went on side of the court. Now they want to just, because the coaches are in control of everything. When they practice, what game, I mean, who's in the game, all that stuff. So now it's like you put them in front of everybody. So just ask them nicely, all right, coach, please have a seat, and I'll talk to you. But when you stand there talking to them, they begin to take the foul. They know they lost the box. Just don't do that. So, all right. So all those things that continue after the fall. Hey, what do you have for me, coach? But they all, again, and we have time, coach. Don't talk to them when they got hands up. All those different things. Coach, we're treating you with dignity and respect. I'm asking you to do the same. And they don't. Hey, thank you. And just go back. Kill them with kindness.
All right. And the last one here.
Tony,
Yes.
just real quick before you leave from this particular slide, when we're talking about warnings, I mean, obviously we're going to handle warnings different. Just talk about how you're going to handle a warning in regard to communicating it to the coach table, as far as if it's on a coach, have a warning on a coach or on a player. Just talk about that for a couple minutes.
Well, more times than not, if you're going to warn a player, guys, don't be overly demonstrative about it or make a big deal out of it, and give the give the coach a heads up. Let the coach know, coach, 12 has been real demonstrative every time we've made a call. Now I've asked him to stop, and I need you to back me up on it, or something along those lines. And let the coach take the lead as far as that goes, and be the one that really deals a little more strongly with the player. Normally, when you give a coach a warning and you put it in a book, then most everybody, at least on that side of the floor, is going to know it. And that is a formal warning that we're not going to tolerate any further reactions or questioning or complaining or that sort of thing. But you can also talk to a coach quietly if they've got an issue and say, okay, coach, I hear you. We'll address it, but I've heard enough of this right now. So don't make a spectacle of it, whether you're warning a player or a coach, because they're going to feel like you're showing them up, and we don't like people to show us up. So they are no different. They're not going to like us showing them up either. So just keep that in mind when you do have these interactions with coaches and with players.
And one other thing before you move on to another, the warning, that Anthony brought up. We don't want them at the, when you go and meet with them prior to the, the game. Of course, I'm warning you right now, but that's not a warning, all right? We don't do that then. I mean, somebody had asked me also, can I do that then? No. Again, and even like with a player, solicit the help. I mean, some player, hey, every time they ask about a foul, like, yeah, captains, we gonna work through the captains and the coaches. We asking them because, and sometimes when you say, coach, help me with number 50, help me with that. If you say the language, that's our code word. Look, hey, they said something probably used for fan, it was not enough. The game didn't need a injection disqualification. Coach, help me with the line. Help me with dissent. When I mean dissent, every time we do, I didn't foul. I didn't. Hey, man. So just help me with dissent. And the coach, based on their response, you'll know whether they're gonna help you or not. Okay, they'll call the number. They look, hey, don't talk to the. Some of them say, well, what do you do? If y'all to call the foul down there, then you just thanks. Because again, we have to whistle. We got it. But we want to make sure that we did our due diligence. And we tried to look at, coach, again, I kind of go with, hey, I asked for their help. Hey, even the captain, how about helping with number 12? Hey, look, again, we asked them, look, they throw the ball, they put the ball down. Hey, look, because in the manual, it says what? You're going to bounce to hand the ball to the nearest official. Now they throw it away. We know what we're going to do. But sometimes, sometimes they put it on the floor, walk away. Those kind of things, don't let the game get out of rapport. All right. So again, use that and they say when that warning, and I think Cecil Mark, the demonstration, imitating the warning all across the gym. We're not going to do that. Like I say, exactly what Tony said. We're not there. And sometimes they're going to keep pressing. And once they get that warning, they're going to simmer down. I mean, once they're sitting on the warning, because the next thing is what? The next thing is they know what's going to happen. So again, sometimes that warning is make it, hey, look, coach, and most of them, after that, they're good. I've told some of them actually have complimented the crew to me and say, hey, Earl, they'll call up, look, yeah, I got a warning tonight, this and that. Yeah, they knew it was, yeah, I said that. Sometimes they use it to try to fire up their players or something happened at school. Hey, kid don't feel like they backing them up, and they did that for them. So again, don't take it personal. Look, that's something in our toolbox. We just want to get there. So don't be angry. It's not personal. All right. So if their conduct, their act warrants a warning, we give them a warning. That's it. I mean, you just go on and do it. And you just let the crew know, hey, he's been warned. And once you put in the book, that's it. Hey, you got the time. Yes, coach, warned. And that's it.
Okay, guys, and this is the last slide, and it's permissible under respect for the game rules. Expressing disagreement with a call as long as the reaction is not aggressive, overly demonstrative, and dissolves quickly. Approach a referee to ask a question as long as it's done in a civil manner and ends with the official has provided the answer. And I cited that example earlier with the player that he asked me if he could ask me a question, and he was professional about it. He was respectful. And I'm like, sure, what's your question? He asked me, and I answered his question, but then he wanted to continue to comment and continue to question me. And I'm like, hey, okay, I've answered your question. I was polite. I was respectful to you. So that's the end of it. We're not going to continue to pursue it. We don't have Jumbotron, so that really doesn't apply to us. But again, just as long as they're respectful and are not rude or obnoxious or overly demonstrative, then be approachable and answer questions and be willing to try to make the game better. A lot of these kids will go a long way if you just treat them like adults rather than treating them like children. And that's pretty much it, guys. Errol, I'll send you these last four slides. I'll send them to you. So if you want to send them out to
yeah, because we're gonna, like I say, what I would like to be, guys, is if for everybody here, when I say guys, everybody, it's be consistent, especially on the things that are what we consider automatics, okay? And we're going to some specifics about, you know, as we go down, and there are other clinics about, you know, partners, when you see this, when to call as far as the team's out on a break, the guy says something, chases not, what, but again, this is as a, because what it sends the message is when we go, whether it's a JV game, middle school game, there's certain type of conduct from the players or coach that we can't tolerate. And because again, it's not, you know, we know where we are now, and we're trying to get people to stay in the profession, the application of officiating, but it's not good for the game when we do all that. And it is laugh and joke afterwards. Again, we're out there working. And most of us, like I say, I saw the last couple of days, and even tonight, I was at St. Paul's. We're working hard. I mean, but we've got to where it's become acceptable to now that, hey, we need to get developed tougher skin. We need to not have rabbit ears. We need to focus on the court, and people can talk to us any kind of way. So, I mean, we got to get away from that. I mean, for us, hey, you know, what we're doing is, you know, we got this thing about now, hey, if they don't do this, they won't have sports. But again, especially in basketball, we see it almost every weekend. You can Google something at some AAU or some youth basketball, and you see, you know, somebody making an attack on a referee or something like that. I mean, but those, it's not good. I mean, you're in the game, you hear it. So, yeah, I will share that. And one thing where we can open up for everybody is something happened last year where it was a team was assessed a technical foul for spectators coming on the court. It was, I mean, it was a big to do about different things, guys. It's in the rule book. I mean, like I say, now I'll share that as we go. We don't want that's going down sometime a slippery slope, but again, guys, we're responsible to keep the game safe, being fair. All right. And right now, everybody, I mean, if those who've been and they you from like center court, you down, and it's a West Columbus versus Whiteville game. Sometimes they throw it down, make a great play. People run on the court and different things. I mean, again, it's happened to most of us who had these rivalry games. Outstanding play come on, and people go out there, and now people comment on everything, and the social media. You win the game. I mean, the game start off at a high level. I mean, the emotions are high, and sometimes we got to take that down. I mean, we got to. Hey, it's easier to loosen up than have to get out of control and try to get it back in. Okay, so again, these things with the coaches. I mean, I want you to, when we go out there, we look at them in the eye and tell them, hey, what's not tolerated? I mean, hey, there's no problem with a coach not liking the game that you're calling. The crew don't like. Hey, that's part of it, but that's not the way to respond. That disagreement, the throwing the jacket, the tap, and I've seen it all. I mean, especially from now. Hey, you hear all the comments. I mean, so again, we want them to be, but we can't do that because they're gonna take on the same attitude of the coach. But I mean, I was in the gym, and one coach got a warning, and he looked around at me and said, hey, that's exactly, he deserved that. Very good coach, state championship coach. I deserve that. Said, hey, this person had the gumption to give them a warning. And that's all it is. And he toned it down the rest of that. So don't feel like you have to tolerate that. And just the warning is nothing. That's all it is. That's just, hey, don't notice. All right. It's not negative. It's not, hey, you do that again, I'm gonna get, no, coach. So, I mean, it shouldn't be just one person. We all hear it. Whoever closest to the table, sometimes just got to do. It's not a whole lot. Coach, we'll talk to you. We'll answer your question, but we're not going to do that. Now, anybody got any particular questions? Now, we can get into the specifics as far as that, because what I like to see now, when we have these scrimmages, again, guys, if somebody, we have some downtime, or if someone, they say two teams, most of these scrimmages now maybe just two teams. We got Jamboree over in Wednesday at Pinecrest, and I'll put the rest of them out. Since we've been on the phone call tonight, now East Bladen has canceled their scrimmage for Wednesday. I mean, so it's back and forth. But again, I will update this on a daily basis. But when you have time, that's the referee. There's somebody in that group. If you over there with scrimmage, several people, when you have some downtime, we're going to demonstrate how we do when we assist. The mechanics that we use is recommended by every association, Robert, and when you give technical, how you do things. Again, don't be mad. Don't be, hey, and stand over there next to the coach. We're not going to bait them. But again, when we have those times, and we did it, I thank everybody who came out on yesterday, and all the if you was instructing and helping, doing those different things, guys, that's how we're gonna get better. Guys, I mean, we are hard critic, but we want to get it right. I mean, because some people talk about, you know, we don't want to perform the games here. It's the Southeastern Association. We're only going to be as good as the weakest official. All right. I mean, because everybody wants here and wants to get on the court and get better. So just a couple of things I will send out to you over this week, because we have a scrimmage on Friday. So we have scrimmage every day this week for the remainder of the week. And if you have a few minutes, before you depart, or if it's the 5 or 10 minute break, just kind of go through and say, if you got a question about something, guys, anything we've covered, or anything you've seen in the mechanics manual in the rule book, ask that veteran official. Hey, that's why we have it. Nobody's just all knowing everything. So you pick the book up and say, okay, a lot of times we've been in those situations. And that's now subject to your question. Anybody got anything about the technical foul? I mean, yes, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I got a question. My question is about the dunking in pregame. If you have two different players on the same team that dunks in pregame, that's 2 indirect technical fouls to the coach. That's also 2 towards the bonus for that team, correct? I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, if you see that first one, guys, we got to get that. I mean, even if when that player comes over, hey, before that next person goes, because that's what Tony said. A lot of time it's like a one-upmanship. If you know somebody, I can say I would say somebody that's tall goes in and they dunk it. The next guy gonna come out, what he's gonna do? That's why you get that first one. They're gonna stop that layup line. Hey, wait, hold. And then we go take the coach over there, get the guy's number, and you go handle it. Because not Kevin, that's more like what's gonna happen. We don't want to stand there. We got to be a little bit proactive.
Right.
Walk down there, hold it. Because again, right now, because we don't want, because like I say, guess what? Assistant coach now is going to become what?
The head coach. Yeah, I was asking because he had mentioned that there was players that were getting their coach disqualified on purpose for whatever reason, and we asked if that would be 2 towards the bonus.
Man, and now they're going to ask you that at the table when you go over them. When you go there, because we have a good thing of doing that, but sometimes we don't do that, and then we got to ensure that hey, we look up there because that's part of it. Hey, we got that piece. We get possession, we get all the other pieces, but then we don't have the team control. I mean the team foul count. We don't do that. But someone will ask that and say, yes, that counts toward. Because then when they start in the normal time, when you get in later in the first quarter, early in the second quarter, when they say, look, one person say we got 6 fouls, and the other say we got 7. You try to go back because you got to assess that. That's why again, hey, what you're starting with, and hey, this is what all the penalties are.
Hey, Earl, this is Leon. I think on his slide it said you didn't assess the second team foul. I think that's why Kevin may be asking that question again.
What are they? What are you talking about? The uniform violations and I mean the administrative.
No, it was on the dunking.
Yeah, yeah. He specifically said that when the two players dunk, that it only counted as 1. So that's why I had to ask to verify again.
I thought he said when someone dunks and that player's charged 1, and then the coach is charged indirectly, that's not 2.
Right.
But if 2 players dunk doing warm-ups, that's 2.
Gotcha.
Right. And that's what, and trust me, the coach doesn't want to start the game, sit down. I mean, and I've seen them, they would go, and most time, they would tell when they get on the player and they say, I've told you. And a lot of times that's, unless like now, we just starting the season on Friday. So it may happen now. But normally in the Christmas tournament, getting late, and that's not their first time. So are there scrimmages in Cumberland County? Yes. In fact, whoever just asked that because it popped up on the screen, is both E. Smith has the JV boys, and they added the JV boys. Cape Fear has 2 in the next 3 days. They got Tuesday and Thursday. Grays Creek has 1 on Wednesday. But I'll put all that out the latest, guys, again. And if it changes, I mean, like I say, since we've been on the call tonight, East Bladen boys they cancel theirs. Their AD just sent a message, said another team went out. But we're gonna, again, it's time for everybody to get on the court. And Anson's gonna have one, so I'll be reaching out. I know Jason was on the phone earlier. I thought that Gene Joyner as well. You guys, we're trying to keep everybody in that proximity, but again, guys, you will, and they great job over the last couple of days. When I say that, all the scrimmages we had on Saturday, the jamborees, those jamborees, and even with St. Paul's tonight, a lot of people over there. I mean, I saw Anthony giving instructions, Al McCray, he's already sent me the list, those over there. A lot of people saying, I'm going over, and it's good to see that you're going over there to work. Because that's what it's about. The only way you're gonna get better, you have to get on the floor. There's some, anybody got anything else good? Because we have some new people. I'll say that new, if you have not taken the test closes on Monday. There's gonna be absolutely no excuse. There's nothing we can do if you don't take the test, because they done extended it now to the 21st. And we have a session that we have basically all the answers. Okay, and I'll put that out with those who haven't taken the test, go online, but still break the book open. If you've just registered and you don't have your book, I mean, you definitely need that. I mean, if you need access to that, if you registered, you should have the NFHS that you can put it up online. I mean, I think Robert, someone that was pulling up, had it, Sam Jones had it the other night. Just put it, hey, it's right there on your phone or any mobile device. All right. So again, we got to get those. Some people came out who have not registered. We're gonna get all those administrative things done because the season is upon us. I mean, we're in the third round for the football playoffs, the soccer state championships. I mean, the regionals for the soccer is tomorrow, and the state championships are this Friday and Saturday. So we the only fall sport left will be football, and we basically on Fridays until we get to 9th and 10th. We have the state championships, and this year Southeastern doesn't have one, but we're gonna be. Next thing, we'll be in the Christmas tournaments, which is the Cumberland County, the Robertson County shootout. All everybody coming, the thing in the Pines, all those things going to be happening. I will send out some of the things that we covered on yesterday. Again, kudos to those individuals that showed up and also helped those other people. It's a lot of things about the mechanics and signals, guys, that hey, you still got to go through and do. Getting reporting and tonight. Again, you checking the book. It's a lot of things in basketball. It just looks, when things don't happen in your game. Like I say, I don't have any games. Like I say, with one, everything's with two. So you're gonna have a partner there. Subject to your questions, I mean, comments. Anybody has anything else? Hey, thanks a lot, Tony. Appreciate it. Yeah. Again, guys, every week we will have some information put out. I mean, we're gonna have some plays. Anybody having any particular plays that happen in the scrimmage that you would like to share need to be addressed? If it is, shoot me a message, a text, and I'll probably address it just like this week on a thing that, hey, this happened. But again, let's treat the games like the scrimmages, just like a game. It's a scrimmage game. All right. I tell the coaches all the time, look, I told one today, look, you in charge of the format of how it's conducted. Like I say, they 10 minutes, quarters, a 20-minute running clock, whatever the format. But as far as the game itself, if there's a intentional foul, guys, call the foul. All right, especially let's set the tone during the scrimmages in this preseason about how the game's going to be called. All right, let's clean the game up in the post play and all that. Now, again, if we're going to have if you're the referee, expect to address the teams upon request if they want to ask you about the changes any particular thing. They want to address the team. Like I say, the coach did that today, and Anthony Maynard and Al McCray handled that. But if you're the referee, there's going to be two people on there as a referee. You kind of give people feedback, and they'll be on the court. Just expect that. You don't have to, if they don't ask for it, don't worry about it. But if they do, that's what they want. Just a short thing, and I will ask you a couple of things to do, like the points of emphasis, what we're going to do for in this 22-23 season.
Can I say something real quick, Mr. Daniels?
Of course you can, yes.
Yes, this is Terry Johnson. I just want to say kudos and thank you for the crew that you had down in St. Paul's working with me and young man. That's the first time I ever did like that shadowing, my first time on the court. And I was kind of hesitant at first, but they took us right on in and showed us that, I still got a lot of stuff to work on, but I like that. I like that.
Again, guys, and that's what it's about, guys. Like I say, I saw you all out there. I mean, over there, and I saw Terry, everybody over there working together And again, guys, that's good for other people to see as well. Is that, hey, we're trying to get better, just like they're practicing. And sometimes, because again, I have a little bit of private school games now, and when it's middle school season start, Cumberland County does not have a middle school scrimmage. They have one in Spring Hill. As soon as they give me their schedule and tell me when it is, we'll do that. But right now, you're gonna learn, like that's like drinking water from a fire hose. You're gonna have to be in the game. So it's good that, like what Terry just shared, that those guys were over there, Herman Lewis and all of them, they was over there going with them, tell them. Lee Toy did that with at Clinton the other day, working with Chris Kumalata. Just, hey, again, call the fouls and stuff like that. But when you see something, especially now during the scrimmage, just call the foul. I mean, look, it just look ugly. Hey, look, we'll work on the signals. What did he do? Describe the action. Tony said earlier, hey, pushing. That's what it was. Hey, hold it. What did he do? Hit him on, hey, look what you're saying. We'll work with that. But again, you got to trust your eyes, but you got to get in position. And that's what a lot of times we try and do. We say move to improve, get the way you can see. All right. So just be receptive. And we had a couple of situations where some of you have been doing this a long time, not necessarily at the high school with no formal training. You get here and you're trying to justify, look, just listen. What we want to do is help you, because it may shorten your learning curve. If you get just a little bit deeper, if you back out just a little bit, if you move down a little bit, if you do this here, that would, hey, you'll see that, and you can make better judgment. But again, that's all I have. Now, those that called in, Galaxy S9, you got the phone number on there. For the most part, John has, but I see iPhone, all these different things, and make sure everybody gets credit. He's going to go through, and normally the same night when we finish the call, we had up to 99, almost 100 people on here tonight. And he gets that, because those individuals, some people weren't able to make it. They knew because they were working that scrimmage. I appreciate those who worked, like Terry, Anthony Mena, Al McCray, who went and worked that scrimmage, got in, and still came up and joined the call. I appreciate, and I understand your dedication. I appreciate your sacrifice. That's all I have. Thanks, Tony.
Good job, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
If you had an iPhone, if you have something else, hey.
Good job, Tony.
Hey, hey, Earl, someone asked if you could take the test multiple times in the chat.
No, but we give it to you though. When I said it, the things that you missed now, once they close the test, we'll be able to review the test. We'll go out, you can review the ones that you missed. Now, if you don't have a qualifying score right now because of the numbers throughout the state, and now I'll be able to get a waiver, and that waiver will give you up to a 75. I mean, we also want to make a 72. So I mean, that's not bad. But again, we want to go back, and because when we go on the court, we want to make sure, and that's why we do these things. That's why, again, that's what we went through, like by the numbers yesterday, about everything. We want to be consistent. No, but we're going to review the test in its entirety. Once it closes, probably next to the 22nd. Well, if we're not, we're going to wait till after Thanksgiving. Now, I'll put out, we will not have a clinic on Sunday after Thanksgiving. All right. I didn't put that date on them. Now, I'm trying to get the next clinics will be out in other areas, whether it's Bladen County, Columbus County, whether it's in Moore County, Scotland County, Richmond County, in Robertson County. We're going to get guys. But again, I was able to get that gym. We had both the cafeteria and both gyms. But again, I would need to solicit some of you all, whether it's a recreation center or something else, but let's go out. And again, it's not just here, because sometimes, hey, we don't have to pay a usage fee or anything like that, but we want to get out there. Now it's getting cold. I mean, so again, we're going to be inside. We're going to try to do a little bit of video on the court and then some classroom stuff. Just they try to get us there. But we got a couple of things coming up. Now, if you're not getting my emails, and some people did today because they text me, I didn't get the link to this here. Make sure you let me know. All right. Because again, that's how we primarily going to communicate. All right. That's all I have. I will give you the list, the scrimmages, but it's good to let me know where you're going. I mean, especially the ones in town. I mean, because on Wednesday, I think we got E. Smith, Graves Creek, and Cape on the 16th. We got 2 at E. Smith on the 16th. We have Pinecrest has that. Now, I'm not saying I'll put that out. But if you're a referee, guys, go out there and make sure that those individuals work and help them. Every time they come out, they should learn something. Stop the clock. Hey, just practice that. That's all I have. Thanks, guys.
What's a good time to give you a call maybe tomorrow so we can discuss I got a concern, I guess we come.
Okay, yeah, I got 11 o'clock. I have a 12:15, and I have a 3 o'clock. So you, or after, when I say that, because those are Zoom calls. For those football people, I mean, we got a football Zoom call with its read supervisor at 3. I got something with a private school at 12:15. That's a Zoom call, and someone at 11. So whatever you text me. Now Keith just asked a question. Now look, I didn't put out. Now Keith is a football official. He's a multi-sport official, and Keith worked the CIAA championship on this past Saturday in Salem, and he's going up to work a Division II playoff game this weekend. Keith, now, Keith, where is that going to be this weekend?
Pensacola, Florida.
Pensacola, right? All right. Now, Anthony, are you going somewhere this weekend? Did you say? Oh, I thought Anthony was. All right, but again, guys, again, we got guys doing good things, guys. Like I say, we got 3 crews. We got 2 4A East games. I mean, we a lot of multi-sport officials. 2 4A East games, and we got 7-person crews, and we got also the 1A game in the East. And both we got 2 seats. I mean, we got a lot of people doing a lot of things. Like I said, a lot of moving parts. If you ever between Arbiter and Dragonfly, hey, look, just make sure if we miss, I mean, the other regional supervisors, myself, have you doing 2 things in the same day. Just make sure you know that. Just all I say, look at it to ensure that. I mean, because some of y'all are doing a lot of things besides, you know, your own personal life, job, and you're doing all this stuff. So we appreciate what you do. But yeah, Keith, just let's text and we'll get together first thing tomorrow morning or whatever's good for you. But that's all I have. Now you can, everybody don't do it at one time, John. You can go back to call these